I grew up being interested in theater. I heard my first hand-cranked projector when I was about 7 or 8 years old and liked it, liked movies. Of course, when I was growing up, the options for entertainment in small towns in Illinois were somewhat limited, so motion pictures were a big part of that. I majored in radio and television at the University of Illinois, got my bachelor's in journalism and my master's in radio and television, thinking, oh, I'll never be a projectionist. I didn't. It kept rejecting it. But it kept coming back to haunt me. And the farther I tried to stay away from it, the more it caught up with me. I had come to New York when I was a junior in high school, between my junior and senior years. And of course, Mecca for anyone interested in motion picture theaters was the Radio City Music Hall. And my parents and I attended a show there, and I can remember walking all the way up to the third mezzanine and standing in the aisle. And once again, as I had at the Majestic and Streeter, looking through the booth porthole, or looking up at the booth ports, and thinking, I wish I could see the inside of that booth. Years later, a vice president at the hall said, well, that ought to teach you to be careful what you wish for. A few years ago, one of my friends at the University of Illinois Foundation and one from the library arranged a tour for me through a theater projection room. And we walked into the booth, and they had a lamp house set up that I hadn't seen since I left Illinois to come back here. I hadn't operated. There were a few of them in New York. And Steve said it looked as if I were going to hug it, which would tend to imply that I'm nostalgic, and it isn't a case of that. It's more a case of meeting an old friend on the street and greeting him and trading reminiscences and then going your own way.
I became a projectionist because I got drafted out of school, and when I came out of the service, I didn't have a career path in mind. And my father just became a projectionist because he retired from sanitation. The early days were a lot better than they are now. I mean, film is a nicer image, at least as far as I'm concerned, but digital is it's where it's at. You push a button, movie plays, can't beat it. Film is more vibrant. Mm-hmm. You know, the colors like explode out of the screen, where digital is more serene, laid back. The funniest story I had, it's not really funny, but it's how I got my first job. I went to relieve somebody, and when I got there, I found out why. So the gentleman came into work, set everything up, went across the street to get a cup of coffee, and as he was walking back, he got hit by a car. And that's how I got my first full-time job in his business. So I thought that was not funny, but it's interesting. And 20 years back, everybody was running film, everybody was employed. Now with the digital age, everybody lost their jobs. So there's not many projectionists left except in jobs like this. So in 20 years, God only knows what the future holds for this business. I have no idea, but I know I'm not going to be around to be worrying about it.
Any head projectionist at Radio City has always been of interest to people worldwide. But now that we're dying out, the craft is dying out, everyone is saying, oh, gee, there were these guys that ran movies, and we know nothing about them. And so we've become kind of like the dinosaur, an item of attraction to people.